viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be taking a look at the weekend's action that was, talking some EPL football, and definitely going over the results. Manchester United continue to continue to extend their winning streak, and Liverpool bouncing back with a victory over Newcastle. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and to talk some EPL football, we have returned to the podcast, Christoph.
Good to be back, viewers.
Christoph, the football action continues. The season is now boiling down. We are now entering the business end of the season. One could say the transfer window slammed shut this afternoon as well. Teams who needed to have strengthened had gotten an opportunity to do so. We saw Man City, Christoph, making a number of transfers. But generally speaking, though, Christoph, before we get into the action over the weekend. Just a quick talk on the transfer market. Were there any standout transfers for you? The window is now closed.
I mean, at the moment, you'd probably have to just say Semenyo, probably.
Semenyo, what about Gehi? I mean, Man City seem to have splashed the cash in the January window. Strengthening, I would say, to a large extent, defensively and also in the offensive end as well.
They splashed the cash last January window as well. I don't know if they're doing some squad building for, some potential future punishments that they might have or something. So, yeah, you never know. Summer
Mhm.
come, they might not be allowed to make transfers, so they might just be strengthening from now. But
That's
yeah,
a
I
that's
mean,
a possibility for
I
sure.
think technically for this season now, at the start of the season or at the end of the summer window, Liverpool had been the team that had spent the most in the transfer window. So if we add up this window and the summer window now, Man City would have exceeded what Liverpool has done. So that,
Yeah, I mean, at the
over
end of the
half a
day,
billion.
right, the proof of the pudding, as they say, is in the eating. So you're saying Semenyo is a standout transfer for you,
So
Christoph?
far, right now, I mean, he's who we've seen the most so far, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's hit the ground running over there at Man City as well, I believe. What, two goals in three are pretty much contain his red hot form since the start of the season, and he has definitely risen to the top in terms of the offensive prowess that he has brought to that Man City unit. But again, Christoph, Man City being held to a draw is it now the clearest sign that this title is Arsenal's to lose?
As long as you're in first, I would say the title is yours to lose as long as you're in first. But there's still a lot of football to be played. All right, there's still a lot of time for,
Yeah, but Man
slip
City not
ups.
looking very impressive, and they seem to be the
Yeah,
closest
they
challengers.
don't look very impressive at the moment, but you never know. There's time for teams to pick up steam, teams to get better. Those who are going to level out or fall off are going to do it now, and then those who are going to pick up, they're going to start picking up, this month, next month, whatever.
Mm. Yeah, Man City just not looking like the team that you would think is going to chase down this Arsenal outfit, to be honest, Christopher. This
One of
title look like it's
the
Arsenal to win.
one
It
of
is
the one of
I'm not
one of the things you would have to say with Man City, obviously we've seen where the defense is weak, which is probably why they would have brought in like a Gehi. But to
right.
me, at least it looks like it's the defensive midfield that is potentially the problem for them. Yeah, the defense is letting them in, but it seems like it's a case where the defensive midfield is not providing adequate cover, and that is the reason why Man City is conceding so many goals. I remember after that Tottenham game, I heard Rodri saying that the referees are against City, and I was like, this man has clearly gone mad or something because
So
he should have seen
he
already in that game and didn't
he's
see a
taking
red.
on your tone then, Christoph. He's following your lead in terms of
Uh,
complaining about refs.
how can Manchester City complain about referees when if we had to
Well,
say
that
that
happens when
team.
you're losing, you know.
Well,
It,
in the last 10 years, Manchester City has probably been the team that has favored the most from poor refereeing decisions.
Yeah, well, you hear the most complaints when you're losing. When you're winning, there's no complaints, there's no noise, there's no sound. But once you're losing, then you look for all sort of excuses in all different
And
places, you know?
the only thing I can say to him is, yeah, that was definitely a penalty on Erling Haaland. That should have been a foul, should have been a penalty. But at the same time, Rodri himself should have been sent off, should have gotten two yellows and then a red in the space of 30 seconds. So I don't know if that was a case of the scales balancing out or what.
Possibly, but you know, time will tell. Time will tell. But Manchester United, Christoph, we see Manchester United continuing to find the results. 3-2 win over Fulham, and that was a Fergie time special, one could say, you know, Sesko finding a late winner deep into extra time after Fulham came from 2-0 down, managed to get an equalizer and probably thought they would be going home with a share of the points. But brilliant run by Fernandez down there on the right hand side. Brilliant cross and a brilliant finish by Sesko. What can we say about this Manchester United team, Christoph? We said this was the game to watch. This was the game that would tell us if Manchester United have turned the corner. Can we now come to that conclusion that United has now turned the corner and they are now looking up versus looking behind them?
Um, no, I can't say with any certainty at the moment.
Well, I
But
mean, this was the game. I mean, we've seen them beaten.
definitely, this was the game that
Yeah,
we said, right? But they did not win this game convincingly, right? Had they
but
win
a
this
win is
game,
a win. Three
a win
points in
is
the bag.
yeah, a win is a win. But
Three
you
wins on the trot.
is not three away games,
Well, it's not three away games, but it's three consecutive wins. It's two at home and one away.
all right? Yeah, I mean it is positive. It is still positive signs for United, but it's not proof of turning the corner yet. In the manner of the win, so to speak. Had they won this game 2-0, 3-0, yeah, I would have said corner turn fine. No problem. I'm not
So
sure
what if
the.
they win four in a row? What would you say then?
I think the argument. I would probably change my argument on five in a row, not four. Five in a. They win five in a row. You can say United are back, but I tell you what,
Okay.
they United definitely are playing with a swagger and have a confidence. That like you said, that late dribble by Fernandez is not necessarily something that we would have seen like
Right,
even
right.
last month under Amarin.
Yeah, and I
Um,
mean, speaking of Amarin, Christoph, how do you think Amarin is feeling seeing the same team which he was coaching, now being coached by Carrick, getting these magnificent results? How would he be feeling as a coach?
no, that
Is this an indictment on his tactics per se, or
not
is it a case
necessarily.
where the players just wanted him out and wasn't giving it their all?
It could be a combination of both. I don't necessarily think it's a case where his tactics were so bad that they weren't usable. They're usable. If yeah, the players also have to commit to playing the football for
Right.
it to be effective, and it could just be a case where the players just didn't have the belief in it. They didn't like the system, whatever, all kinds of things, egos and so on. But now, we see Carrick coming in. We talk about the new manager bounce. We can't say that the new manager bounce has worn off as yet. So
Mm.
that's why
So
it's
you're
one of the
saying we could
reasons.
possibly be seeing the new manager bouncing effect then?
I think there it is there to some extent. Not necessarily saying all of what they're doing is down to that, right?
Right.
But some of it could be a part of it.
So you're
Um,
saying after five games, you should be able to
a-
now draw an effective conclusion.
After five games, if they win five in a row, you could say, yeah, United are back, no problem.
Mm.
I would not query that statement. One thing to note, however, is that it is a World Cup year. Some players' contracts are also running down, and they will be out of contract in the summer. I don't know if some of these players are playing for a new contract and also, playing to make that World Cup squad. So they've kind
Well,
of stepped up
definitely,
their
for
game.
sure. That would definitely be a bonus for many of player, especially the United players who, apart from a few, are on the fringes of their national team. And probably if they can have a good season, then they may be considered, the likes of a Maguire, Luke Shaw for England. Casemiro, possibly a Brazilian call. His former manager, Ancelotti, is now coach of Brazil. So if he can continue his good form, in this game, he got a goal and an assist. He might be in the pecking order, to be honest. Cunha is another one, Christoph, who could possibly be called up for Brazil. So there are a number of Manchester United players who their national teams will be playing in the World Cup. And in all honesty, they may be on the outside currently looking obviously to make a good impression and get that call to the party, so to speak. So yeah, you're definitely onto something. And of course, you say a number of players are out of contracts as well. This could be the last big payday for a number of these players. So again, they would want to make a good impression. But yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on going forward. But we segue, Christoph, and we go over there to Anfield. Anfield, Liverpool taking care of business versus Newcastle. Again, personally, I entered being rather skeptical. And when the first goal went in from Newcastle, Christoph, it was all it was almost as if I was seeing my prediction coming to the fore. But Liverpool quickly bounced back with two quick goals and went into the halftime leading that one 2-1 and pretty much took care of business the rest of the way. But what was your impression? I mean, I know we spoke about Newcastle and their troubles, Christoph, especially after playing midweek, and we saw the blueprint being played out here.
Um, uh, Liverpool obviously, had I guess some confidence coming into this game. Because I believe they did win their Champions League match, right?
Well, they did win their Champions League, what, 5-0, I believe it was,
Right.
or
So
6-0.
confidence boost coming into this match.
But
The
of course,
score.
it's Liverpool has been two contrasting farms, though, Christoph. They've been playing well in Europe, as you pointed out. Teams are not playing low blocks in Europe, but
Right.
then they come to the EPL and it's a struggle. I mean, Bournemouth last week is a primary example.
Yeah, lower block.
Low
Well,
block
all the big
and
that.
taking care of the fragile defense as well,
Right.
exploiting that fragile Liverpool, that the soft Liverpool belly, I would say.
I think what we're seeing, and especially in Europe, is that there is a gulf kind of being created between the English teams and the majority of the other teams and leagues, because we see where the top five, I think, for the Champions League is what, three English teams in the top five, right?
Right.
The mighty Real Madrid down in the playoffs again. Some of these big teams barely escaping playoff, barely making the top eight and so
So
on.
is this now clearly showing that the English league, Christoph, is way above the other leagues in the world? Is the English league the best league in the world?
Uh, uh, I believe the English league is the best league in the world. Obviously, I complain about the level of officiating, but it's not just that. What I also think is that the English league is probably the managers in the English league are tactically superior to the other managers in Europe. Um,
Wow. That's a very bold conclusion to draw, though. I mean, at the end of the day, you need good players in order to bring
no,
out those tactics.
right, but you wouldn't argue that would you argue that Kylian Mbappe is a bad player? Would you
That might
argue
that might be a trick question in the
would
sense that in the sense that
it, all right,
physically and football wise, he is not a bad player.
all
But
right,
is
hold on.
he a good
Is
player for your team
is, is all
based on
right,
attitude and leadership
all
and
right,
all these other things?
all right, let me just ask the question. Is Kylian Mbappe a good player or a bad player?
Let's go with your premise and say he's a good player.
He's a good player, right?
All right. So the thing with me is personally, Christoph, I rather a team concept
Right.
type player than an individualistic
Oh no,
player.
I agree with you. I agree with you, right?
And to me, Mbappe is an individualistic player. So if it's not going his way, he completely disrupt the dynamics of the team.
Oh, no, I was just saying, you were
If
saying
you
that
understand what I'm saying,
you were saying teams have to have good players, which would say
correct.
that, obviously
With good attitude. Maybe I should
the Eng-
add with good attitude as well.
the English teams have good players, right? Is what you're suggesting.
Uh,
We're going to forget about the attitude for the time
oh
being, but
well, well, well.
what you're saying is that the English teams would
Yes,
have superior
correct. Good
players, right?
football players.
All right,
Yes.
but when we look at say Real Madrid, obviously we have a Kylian Mbappe who is regarded as one of the best players in the world.
Right,
A Jude
right.
Bellingham, Vinicius Junior, whatever, right? But they are in the playoff for second year in
Right.
a row,
Yeah,
right?
which is the point I'm making. That while you might have good players, Christopher, at the end of the day, football is a team sport. It takes the entire team. So you could have, which is what Madrid based their whole history on, the history of the Galacticos, Christoph. Madrid once would buy up the best players across the world and put them in one team, the Galacticos. But they never won it all because sometimes big egos can't coexist together.
Right.
And that's probably what we're seeing over there at Real Madrid at the moment, while they're not necessarily playing as a
Uh,
team, but
It's
operating
definitely
more as
it
individuals.
it's definitely egos is definitely part of it for Real Madrid, but it's also the balance. Real Madrid have not got
There
the
you go.
balance right
Right.
in
So
terms
it's the
of
same thing with
attacking
Liverpool,
and
in my opinion, as well, which is why Liverpool hasn't had the best of season, is getting that balance right.
right.
And I mean, Salah is probably a big part of that. I mean, last year we were talking about Salah signing a contract, and
Mhm.
everyone was willing to kill Liverpool if Liverpool did not sign him back to a contract, Christoph. That being said, this season he is signed and he is not producing.
Right.
But last year, everyone would kill Liverpool to sign him, sign him, sign him.
My opinion of the probably the Salah situation is that I legitimately thought Liverpool would have probably sold Salah about 2 seasons ago, to be honest,
Okay,
to cash in when the value was very high, when the
right.
Saudi teams wanted him, and you could have started
Oh, so you're talking
rebuilding.
about that period with when Henderson and Fabinho and those guys went over to the Desert League.
Right. I thought they would have potentially cashed in
Firmino.
there, and then you could have started a rebuild at
Well,
that
that was
time.
a good decision. I mean, in hindsight, that was a good decision not to cash in. At that point, probably the error now in hindsight again was pretty much signing him back, pretty much going against Liverpool's core principles. In all honesty, I mean, going against Liverpool core principles, they re-signed Van Dijk and they re-signed Salah, which again, based on the season these guys had, no one could predict this fall off would be so dramatic, but we've seen it time and time again, Christoph. A number of big names come to mind. We see it with the likes of a Sanchez. We've seen it with the likes of a Hazard. We've
Alexis
had
Sanchez.
numerous, no, I'm saying we've had numerous examples of big name players being signed after age 30
Hmm.
on big bumper contracts, and they are never the same again after they made these big signings. And we're probably seeing the same thing being repeated with Salah in this occasion. His numbers have plummeted. I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting a repeat of last season's numbers. But even half of what you did last year, Christoph, even half, you would accept half. But we're seeing nothing close to the Salah we saw of yesteryears. And this may very well be his final season at Liverpool, in all honesty. Even
Right.
though he's probably on a 2 year contract, I think this might very well be his last season. And we see a complete rebuild already started with younger players coming in. The Verts, the Eketikes, Isaac, who is still out injured. But a number of young upcoming players. And speaking of which, I'm hearing Liverpool signed a defender from France, Christophe, Jacquet. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this player. Personally, it's the first time I'm hearing the name. I have not seen this player play 90 minutes, but I'm hearing Liverpool signed a 20-year-old defender who is to come in the summer. But his signature is already secured, seemingly hijacking a move from Chelsea. Chelsea was also in for the player signature, but Liverpool already making moves. But I think Liverpool needed moves now, Christoph. moves in order to save their season and possibly qualify them for the
I
Champions League
mean,
or to aid their run in Europe
it
as well.
it could be that Liverpool have decided that the season is a wash and reset in the
Well,
summer.
it's a wash, but you're still in the Champions League, you're still in the FA Cup, and you can still finish in the top four, top five of the English Premier League. So while it's a wash in terms of the title, it's not a wash in terms of qualifying for Europe and making a deep run, if not winning the Champions League, and making a deep run, if not winning the FA Cup as well. And to me, they needed defensive reinforcements, right back, centre back, to cover for those players just in case of injuries. I mean, currently we're seeing midfielders playing in defense. Sobasai again was deployed at right back, and Gravin Birch, in the absence of Kanate, is being deployed at centre back. So I'm not sure if that is the best combination or the best 11 for Liverpool when you have midfielders playing in defensive positions. I'm not sure, but time will tell. Time will definitely tell. And these decisions will obviously haunt or glorify Slot in the future, Christoph. But it's decisions like these that will definitely define your legacy and your longevity at a club such as Liverpool, because at the end of the day, it's win or you lose your job. That, and of course, you have credit in the bank, but how long that will that credit last? Same thing with Arteta. We are seeing Arsenal doing so well, but I'm sure many will be calling for his head if come the end of the season, he doesn't lift the EPL or maybe some other major trophy. I'm not sure. But the EPL is probably the golden crown that every Arsenal fan want to win after what, 23, 24 years?
22 years.
20. Ah, who would have thought? So you're saying to me, Christoph,
Mm.
Arsenal has not won the EPL since that invincible season?
Correct.
Wow, wow, that is some shocking stuff right there. I mean, since we're on the subject, as an Arsenal fan yourself, though, Christoph,
Mhm.
what would you say have contributed the most to Arsenal not winning over the last 22 years? I mean, now Arsenal is probably on the verge. We can now dissect those 22 years and come up with a few good reasons as to why
Um,
Arsenal hasn't lifted the title in such a long period.
um, it's probably three factors in my opinion. Obviously, the finances was one where they had built the new stadium and as such had to pay off the loan and obviously couldn't spend big money on players,
Right.
especially when you had the likes of Chelsea spending at the time what was absurd money on players, 50 million on Fernando Torres or whatever. And obviously Arsenal
That 50 million was a new 100 million in
was the new
today's era,
100
Christoph.
million at the time, right? And obviously no. And then, Man City come in getting the oil money, spending, what at the time was again absurd money
Right,
on
right.
defenders, 80 million, 100 million on defenders. Nobody had done that before. So it was
Which,
crazy. So the
mm,
finances was one major
right.
issue,
So
right?
the finances, one issue right there.
Right. The second issue was Arsenal would get these gem players. They would start to develop. They'd start to come good, but then you would not be able to hold on to these players while other players are also developing and coming into their own. So
Such as who do you speak of?
you had that Fabregas who was the star for Arsenal for a number of
Yeah,
years.
but Fabregas is just one of, I mean,
Robin van Persie, who was
no,
for Madrid,
Van Persie left when he was already probably at either at his prime for a
right?
year or past his prime.
Fabregas also left at his prime.
Right, but Van Persie, I don't think Van Persie is a good example. I mean, Van Persie left
So
when he had
Va
given his all for Arsenal and realized he's not going to be winning anything.
Van Persie had not given his all to Arsenal.
Oh, come on. Wasn't
Van
Van Persie one of your favorite players at one point in time?
yeah, but
Yeah.
Van Persie spent the majority of his Arsenal career injured.
Well, well.
And while injured, he got contract renewals and so on and so forth.
So,
So
so you're saying the club showing loyalty.
when he had finally, gotten his fitness and reached the potential that was seen in him, he left.
Oh, so you burnt his jersey then, Christoph, with
I
that
never,
move
I
to
never
Man U.
owned I never owned a Van Persie jersey. I'm
All
not
right.
one of
So
those
what's it? So
people
what's the
who
third
would
point
have,
though? What's the third point?
The
Before we go
third
down that rabbit hole. Yeah.
the third thing for me was um Arsene Wenger did not evolve tactically quickly
Mm,
enough.
I see. So the game
So
caught up with Wenger then
the game caught
and
up with Wenger
surpassed him.
and surpassed him.
Got you. Got you. And probably he spent too long in the job as well.
Yes, but what probably his biggest feeling was his loyalty to certain players. He would bring in some players and then just be loyal to them, despite the fact that, probably they didn't play
Such just as who?
well enough or they were always injured for most of their career. But the
Such
potential
as?
was there. Yep. Such as Van Persie, like we said, who was injured majority of his career, but Wenger showed loyalty to the players,
Yeah, that's a
re-sign,
one player
re-sign.
though, Christoph. I mean,
There's there's a number of players. Diaby, Jack Wilshere.
okay. Yeah, DRB, maybe Ebue.
Eboué was yeah, Eboué. Even after leaving, Eboué had also gotten a job at Arsenal and so on.
Mm, yeah, okay, I see. Okay, so those would be your three top factors. Finances, uh, you say not holding on to key young players, and of course the managerial situation, Wenger overstaying his welcome, so to speak. Well, fair enough, Christoph, fair enough. I mean,
Wenger stayed too long, but it was more so his tactical nuance
tactics.
did not
Right, right, right.
evolve with the time.
With the times. Got you, got you, got you, got you. Well, Arsenal is on the verge of potentially securing a title after 22 years. So, time will tell in that regard. Time will definitely tell. But yeah, and I mean, speaking of Arsenal, they did get a good victory to continue their run, bouncing back versus Leeds, Christoph, and of course, a number of what you would say fringe players. You could say getting on the score sheet, the likes of a Jesus scoring a sublime goal there, Christoph. Will he be the man leading the line going forward, or will Arteta fall into the same situation you've accused Wenger of showing loyal to underperforming players?
I mean, Arteta has, in my opinion, already fallen into that situation somewhat. I mean, you said you think it's a case of him not trusting his players, which is why he doesn't
Right,
rotate them out more.
correct,
I kind of like what Sir Cole said that if such player cannot be rotated in or start over say at as Ubamendi or start over Odegaard a one game or two game, then why is the player at the club?
right.
Right.
Well, we might see a bit more of that going down into the business end of the season for sure. A number of players getting on the score sheet, possibly rounding into form. And of course, the overworked Saka also picked up an injury, so that might be something to keep a close eye on. But that being said, Christoph, we move to Aston Villa, a team that has been punching above their weight, making a number of key signings as well. One such signing is former Chelsea man, Christoph.
Conor
Uh,
Gallagher.
no, the striker,
Tammy Abrahams. Tammy
Tammy
Abrahams.
Abraham,
Conor
right? I
Gallagher
think
went to Tottenham.
correct, correct. But we saw Tammy Abraham making his debut for Aston Villa, a team he played for before, I believe, on loan from Chelsea, uh, in the absence of Ollie Watkins. But it was Aston Villa going down 1-0 to 10-man Brentford, Christoph. What can we say about that game? Are we now seeing a slight decline with this Aston Villa team, or this was just a build on the radar?
Um, I wouldn't say as yet if that was the case. Obviously we know sometimes it's more difficult to play against 10 man.
Right.
The 10 man defend better and they attack harder. So hard to say. I wouldn't say just yet, that is definitely the case. But it could be, like we said, them leveling out. They have reached their level, and now we're going to see these sort of results for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, we also saw Leon Bailey, Christoph, being recalled from his loan spell over there in Roma, coming on, possibly making an impact. What can we expect from a Leon Bailey? I believe some time ago, Christoph, you did say
Mhm.
we've already seen the best of Leon Bailey. Do you still stand by those words at this
Yeah,
point in time?
yeah. We've already seen the best of Leon Bailey. Leon Bailey has has primed and peaked, and we're into the falling action now. It's just
Ah,
downhill from here for Leon Bailey.
that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, this is a young man in what? He's 27, 28 thereabouts. So he still
I-
have a
i-
few good years
In
left.
in
In
if
football, it doesn't
in
most
football,
footballers
yeah,
speak about 27, 28, 29?
most, but you have to take into account the number of injuries that he's had throughout his career, and they can and do take a toll.
Mm. So you're saying we're seeing evidence of that he's no longer the player he once was as a result of the injuries he's sustained over the years then, Krista.
I think so, but I mean, obviously, the player can prove me wrong. You know, I think
Mm.
it's possible for him to prove me wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. I don't think we'll see a better season from Leon Bailey than in his previous years as a football player.
Mm.
Probably, I would probably say Leverkusen was his best years, probably.
That I can't argue against that. I mean, the numbers speak for itself, so to speak. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Possibly his second year at Aston Villa, I think possibly could be comparable. But yeah, I can definitely see evidence of what you're saying that we've probably seen the best of Leon Bailey. He not really getting the productions that we once saw, the goal, the assist, the runs, the crosses, the chance creation, etc. So and possibly this was one of the reasons he was allowed to go on loan in the first place as well. Circumstances allowed for him to be recalled, but that initial loan move could possibly be that Emery didn't really fancy him, Christoph, and because of injuries or lack of squad depth in the Aston Villa ranks and the position they're in currently, trying to maintain that hold on a Champions League spot, then, he could be a bit part player coming in the cups, give you a 20 minutes here, a 30 minutes there, and, keep the rest of players around him fresh and going. So, interesting times ahead, but definitely a player to keep an eye on going forward. Then we saw some other results, Christoph. Was there any other results which stood out for you though, apart from these major games which caught the attention? Were there any other games which caught your attention? I know Sunderland played today. They won their game 3-0. And of course, there was the epic draw between Brighton and Everton. Everton coming up with a last, you could almost say, second goal in that one, that game ending in a 1-1 draw.
Looking at the results now, not really. The only shocking result was probably the Aston Villa game.
Mm. Oh, so you were anticipating a win for Aston Villa then in
I
that one.
thought Villa would have won that game, or at the very least drawn it. That was probably the only game that was
I'm
probably.
wondering though, Christoph. I mean, Brentford did go down to 10. Would Aston Villa have a better chance of winning that game if Brentford still had 11 men on the field?
Potentially.
As you said, 10 when you're down to 10, it's almost as if you double your efforts in
Right.
terms of trying to compensate for that numerical disadvantage. And that seemed to have been the case in this game. Brentford got a goal, so they technically got something to defend. And it seemed as if they just doubled their efforts and battened down the hatches and left Villa Park with 3 points. Uh,
Yep.
so I'm in hindsight, it's just a question that I'm not sure if a manager, if you gave the manager the choice, what would he choose? Would he would you give, let's say, a team a 1 goal advantage, but also reduce them by 10 men, as opposed to playing that team 11v11 and both of you start on zero? It would be interesting to see the different perspectives.
I mean, I don't know what another manager would be, but obviously you don't want to have a goal deficit, regardless of how many men the team is reduced by.
Interesting times ahead for sure. Interesting times ahead, ah, But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The table makes for interesting reading as well, as it relates to the current positions of a number of teams. Of course, Arsenal leads the way, Christoph, followed by Man City. So Arsenal now has a clear 6 point lead. Then we have Aston Villa in third on 46 points. Manchester United on fourth, 41 points. Chelsea comes in at fifth. They have 40 points. And then the top six rounds off with Liverpool on 39 points. The other teams are 3 points or more behind those top six. So it seems as if to me, Christoph, that the top six has separated themselves, and then you're looking at six and below somewhat separating themselves as well. It seems. And then of course you could say a top there's like a top three race between I would say Arsenal, Man City, and Aston Villa. Many believe Aston Villa will fall away, and it's probably a two-horse race between City and Arsenal. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But based on the way I see things panning out and I see two teams playing, based on the eye test, Christoph, I can see nothing other. I thought City would have tightened the screws on Arsenal at this point, but I'm being left disappointed, uh, by the performance and the results of Man City. And similarly, when Arsenal got the chance to somewhat open up a bigger gap, they too faltered. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But as you would say, lots of football left to be played, and it's not over until the fat lady sings. But any final thoughts, Christoph, as it relates to this weekend's football action? Any quick final thoughts?
Interesting weekend of football. No real surprises except, I guess the Aston Villa game that we talked about. Uh, Rodri, strange rant about the referees, given that he should have seen a red. Was it a foul on Haaland? Yes, it should have absolutely have been a penalty, but on the reverse, he should have seen red as well. So,
You're saying half of one's six of one, half a dozen of the other. Then you got one result against you, but in the same breath, you got a results for you. So that seemed to be how the way the football is going. You win some, you lose some, so to speak. The ball is round. We hear all these sort of football analogies, but at the end of the day, there has to be a winner, there has to be a loser. So interesting times ahead though, viewers and subscribers. Thanks again, viewers, for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Christoph, thank you again for coming through and sharing your thoughts and your opinions. Viewers, subscribers, if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell. And of course, leave your comments in the comment section. Tell us your thoughts on Manchester United. Can they keep up this winning streak? And can Man City chase down Arsenal for the title? Talk to us in the comment section. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.